Hey, thanks for tuning back into the Zephyr Wellness YouTube channel. My name is Jake Wiskerson. I'm a company co-owner, licensed marriage and family therapist, national certified counselor, and today I want to talk to you about the process of differentiation and getting away from your emotional enmeshment. So this is brought to us by a guy named Murray Bowen. And Bowen's work is well known throughout our field with regard to family systems, creating triangles among family members and all sorts of interactions. But today I wanted to talk to you about the concept of differentiation. I mentioned that at the outset. So imagine, if you will, these two circles represent two people, and they're enmeshed with each other. They're locked in. So if one feels something, the other inevitably feels it and responds as well. So if somebody's depressed, if I'm enmeshed with that person, I will also feel their depression. I'll join them in it, and I'll be bogged down as well. Similarly, if somebody's excited, I might be excited with them, because as they go, so go I. What we want to do is we want to move away from this so that we're not locked in and imprisoned by somebody else's emotional disturbances or moods or chronic chaos or whatever it may be. So I'm not joining them in their stuff. I want to separate myself so that I am healthy while they can work through their process on their own. And what we move to is where these circles are standing on their own. They're comfortable in who they are, and they don't feel a need to go jump in and rescue or problem solve or do any of those things that take away from the individual's ability to function on his or her own. Now, that being said, if we have enmeshment down here, and I'll just spell it out, and down on the other end we have what's called differentiation, as I've mentioned a couple times now. Some people will call this, if I spell it right, Jen. Some people will call this individuation, and that's more of a Carl Jung term. If you're individuated, you know who you are, you're tapped into your true self, and you're just functioning regardless of what the world does around you. You know who you are. Differentiation is the same concept. And remember, it's important to note that this is emotional enmeshment and emotional differentiation. So I'm not feeling as one person feels, and I'm not just simply reflexively reacting to whatever's going on around me as though I am a part of somebody else's stuff. So as we move toward this, we want to be mindful that there is no single arrival point of differentiation. There is no spot at which you go, I am fully differentiated, because that really just doesn't ever happen. We want to be connected to people. We want to be engaged. We want to care for people. We want to be attached in a very healthy way. What we do not want to be is somebody else's puppet. We don't want to be dancing around just because they pull a string and we respond without thinking. So we want to move away from this, and what this looks like is the ability to notice somebody's distress or their disturbance or whatever they're going through and say, I acknowledge that you're there, I can validate that, I feel where you are, I'm just not going to join you in it. And that can be incredibly distressing to the person with whom we've been enmeshed previously, because what ends up happening is as we pull away and we differentiate ourselves, this person's going to try to come after us, because for so long, if we've been enmeshed with that person, they're not going to know how to respond without that almost symbiotic dance that we do. But it's not symbiotic, it's really more parasitic, where their stuff is coming onto us and it's affecting our lives negatively. So this might be a parent-child, it might be two spouses, it might be an employee and employer, it could be any number of things, coach and player on a team. And it's healthy to go this way. It's not necessarily unhealthy to be here, so long as we know that we're bonded with that person. So, for example, I want to be enmeshed with my wife to some degree. I want to feel her pain. I want to walk through that with her, because I have chosen. I cleared my throat and raised my hand in the back of the room and said, I select you, and I select you for life. So I want to go through what she's going through, but I don't necessarily want to carry her stuff with me as though it's mine, because that'll wear me out. What can end up happening, however, is as we move along this line, sometimes what we get is called a cutoff. And this cutoff is not a healthy separation from the individual from whom we're trying to differentiate. What it looks like is more like giving them the finger when we try to separate, saying, screw you, I don't want to be a part of your life anymore because you treated me poorly, maybe you were breaking up with a significant other. And what ends up happening is we come down here to some place called disengagement. We don't want disengagement, because when you're disengaged, what you are essentially doing is you're still emotionally connected. So that every time this person will say, this is person A and you're person B, and we're trying to go down here and be person A and person B, standing on our own, of our own free will and accord, living our lives the way that we want to live them, and choosing how we get influenced by people, not simply reactively responding to what they do. So if this is person B and I'm person B, and the person I'm saying, well, we'll just use the breakup, for example. I'm trying to break up with this person. If I just, give them the metaphorical middle finger and walk away and say, screw it all, I don't want to be a part of your life anymore. But every time somebody mentions my ex and brings her name up, for example, and I respond with a, man, that was awful, she treated me horribly, I don't want to be a part of her life anymore, I'm totally over that. I'm not over that, because I'm clearly not at peace with it. If it's triggering anger in me, what I'm doing is I'm returning to this enmeshment. Now, she may not even be in the room. She may be hundreds of miles away for all I know. But the very mention of her name can spark that emotional reactivity, and therefore is an indicator that I'm still emotionally enmeshed with that person. This happens all the time. A classic example might be a child who goes off to college, say, is raised in a home where science is the big thing. Science is the big push. Mom and dad are both doctors, for example, or researchers, and they say, you need to go, do science and get into science and go to med school and all this stuff. And the child goes off to college and says, you know what, I've always liked playing the trumpet. I really like to play the trumpet. Music is my thing. But maybe the parents, this would be, collectively parents are A, would say, I wish you'd quit that. That's going to lead nowhere. The real path is science. So the person may go off to college, the student may go off to college and says, to heck with my parents. I'm done with that. I'm living my own life. Months pass, they're settled into their residence hall, they're living on campus, they've made friends, they've joined some clubs and activities, they're in the band, they're in the orchestra, they're doing the trumpet thing, playing music, and life's good. And the phone rings in, say, late November, and dad's on the phone and says, hey, son, how's the college going? Son says, it's going great, my grades are good, I've joined some clubs, I'm doing the orchestra, I'm in the marching band, we had a great season, I even won an award, I'm section leader. And dad says, you're still doing that music thing, huh? I thought you'd give that up and go to the science route like I wanted you to. And immediately the son goes, Dad, why can't you just let me live my own life and recognize that I want to do my own thing and I don't want to follow in your footsteps? Well, he's immediately back in this circle of enmeshment here. He hasn't actually transcended down to differentiating himself, because every time the phone rings, there's an emotional reaction to it. What would really be ideal is if this person could come back up here, re-engage, because what we know about attachment theory is that the only way to remove yourself from somebody is to attach in a healthy way and then voluntarily let go of that, so that you can walk on your own path to go wherever you need to go. That can only happen if this person makes an acknowledgement and says, you know what, I realize that unconsciously my parents are still a part of my life and they still have a lot of say over it. I can make peace with their path being different from my path and move toward differentiation. So that phone call next time might look something like, hey son, you're still doing that music thing. Gee, I wish you'd go science because I think music's worthless, et cetera, et cetera. And it's full of judgment. And the son goes, Dad, I appreciate that. I appreciate that, your career worked out well for you being a doctor and all that. I'm just choosing a different career, and I'm actually quite happy. What he's done is he's separated himself in such a way that he's in a healthy place to say, I acknowledge that Dad's path was great for Dad, and my path might be great for me. It might not be great for me, but it's still my path. And he's free of that puppet pulling string that Dad's probably not trying to push his buttons. He's probably not trying to pull his strings to make him mad, but it's happening nonetheless, because parents only want the best for their kids and they want it through their lens, not necessarily through their kids' lens. But as this kid goes through his own path and he works toward differentiation, the parents might react poorly to that. They might say, oh man, my son has fallen off the face of the earth. He's walked away from the family practice and we don't even know what's. That's fine, as long as this person is still healthy. That's all he cares about. He cares about his own life, and it doesn't mean he has to discard his parents or have fights at Thanksgiving over whether or not he's playing the trumpet or taking biology. What is important is that this person is at peace. Now, hopefully through that process, that peace can resonate to all the other people in his life, and they'll say, person B's really got it going on. I wonder what he's got. What he's got is He's found himself. He's differentiated from his family influences. And this can have many applications across many environments. But what absolutely has to happen is a reconnection. And this reconnection doesn't have to happen in the same room or even under ideal circumstances. In fact, sometimes I've worked with people who are disconnected from the loved ones that caused them problems, and the loved ones have died. They're not even around to make that connection anymore. So in counseling, what we do is we'd work with person B here and help them to acknowledge through a series of processes that it's okay to let go of that influence and be your own person. You're not just chasing a shadow or some moving target that can never be reconciled. So there's processes by which you don't have to necessarily go face to face with I guess we'll call him the antagonist in the enmeshment circle here, and actually say, look, Dad, I'm choosing my own path. I hope that you can respect that. It doesn't have to happen face to face. It can happen individually. It can happen over a period of time. It can happen through lots of support and friends and so forth. But the idea is that no matter what, we want to move away from our emotional, unconscious enmeshment and toward a healthier differentiation so that we can still love our parents, we can still love our spouses. I'm not going to necessarily emotionally react to every problem that my wife brings home from work. I'm not going to react to every problem that my employees have at Zephyr, but I will be compassionate. I will meet them where they are. I will walk through their life with them. I'm not going to walk through their life for them. And I'm not going to try to bail them out. And I'm not going to be, spending all my energy in all these other areas that really is energy that should be worked through by the person who's doing the emotional thing, whatever they're doing. They're depressing, they're anxietizing, they're struggling with mood swings, whatever it is. I don't need to jump in there as though I am somehow responsible for rescuing them. I'm responsible for me, and the healthiest thing that I can do for them is to be me. So hopefully, if maybe they're really, really ill, they can look at me and say, yeah, Jake's got it going on. I think I'd like to be more like Jake because he seems to be at peace. And then that's an open door for them to ask me, how did you do this? And I say, well, I let go of a lot of my influences or whatever. I still acknowledge them. I recognize they're part of my life. A lot of them are very valuable, but I don't necessarily need to be, dancing to somebody else's tune like I'm a puppet. So if this helps you, please leave a comment, email us at info@zephyrwellness.org, or continue following the YouTube channel. Also check out the Noggin Notes app and the Noggin Notes podcast, and listen to more pithy, insightful tidbits that I might throw your way. So on behalf of the Zephyr Wellness family, I thank you for listening or watching, and I wish you great mental wellness. Have a great one.